Our community leaders. A thank you to Archbishop Hebda, and then to my friend. I feel very blessed to be in this space in Shiloh with my friend Bishop Howell. Bishop, we have been here in times of joy as we celebrated Josie Johnson in this space, and we have been here when we buried our children from gun violence in this very space. But every time we gather here, we gather as community. And I think this moment today that you see behind us is an expression of that community and that common decency across faiths, across ethnic groups, across socioeconomic boundaries, all standing strong in support of our neighbors. To the legislators who are here and the elected leaders, thank you for the leadership you have been demonstrating. I have seen you, but more importantly, the community have seen you. When I turn on a clip and watching someone, he says he's an ICE agent, but he's wearing a mask and we have no communication with him, is dragging a pregnant woman by her arms down the street, it was elected officials who were standing there saying, this is wrong. This is not who we are. So to those elected officials, thank you. Let's be very clear here, not to confuse issues. In Minnesota, we take public safety very seriously. We work on it together. Our community leaders here have done incredible work. Our law enforcement in Minnesota has shown bravery in making sure they're protecting our citizens. We believe in that. Public safety is strongest when we focus on serious crimes and when communities trust they will be treated fairly, with dignity, they will be given due process, and the rule of law is supreme. We're seeing none of that from the current administration. It's not about keeping people safe. It's about generating fear. It's about generating headlines. It's public safety by political theater. And not only is it not keeping people safe, it's putting people at risk. It's putting the people that they say they're targeting at risk. It's putting other innocent Minnesotans at risk. It's putting law enforcement at risk. And I will not be lectured about protecting law enforcement for the people who instigated January 6th and attacked people who were my friends of Capitol Police. So Minnesotans will not be lectured by this administration about anything, especially about public safety and human decency. We saw yesterday a U.S. citizen, a member of SEIU, was racially profiled and harassed by ICE agents right here in Minneapolis. In Minnesota, we'll prosecute criminals because of their actions, regardless of their race, their background, their immigration status. But we'll never target people because of those things. The distinction matters. When law enforcement is driven by profiling or intimidation, it undermines all the trust in the community. It makes us less safe, and it pulls resources away from doing the real work of crime. Minnesota's not going to play along with their strategy. Will not allow our communities to be used as political theater or for their personal benefit. I think it's pretty clear to all of us exactly what this president is doing. He's targeting states and communities that he has a national political fight against and that he doesn't agree with. It's also a distraction from his own personal crimes that are out there being investigated while he's harassing others. So as Minnesotans, on January 1st, your health care costs are going to skyrocket. Groceries aren't any cheaper. Your community's no safer. And we have people that won't even communicate the most basic things amongst law enforcement as we've always worked together. And it never mattered before who the administration was until this one. So this is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy when you hear the Vice President of the United States talk about now white people won't have to apologize for being white. That's never happened once in my whole damn life. And I think everybody in this room knows what they're doing. So we're here today to say enough of this. We're here today to stand that Minnesota will protect their neighbors, to tell those folks who are out there who are too scared to send your children to school, who are too scared to visit a local business, who are too worried about maybe picking up extra food during the holidays at the food banks. We will do all we can to make those corridors safe for you, to make sure you're able to do what you need to do. So I'm grateful for the leadership in this room. I'm grateful that the folks who have been standing up time and time again. I'm grateful to our faith community that took this out of the political realm and made this about humanity. And the reason we're here, like all of you had, we hear rumors, we hear suggestions of things, because it's how they operate, that there will be an increased presence. I would tell you, if I were a betting person, they will do it over these holiday seasons because it makes it especially cruel. It makes it especially mean-spirited. It makes it especially traumatizing for communities that wish to gather and to celebrate in their faith on these most important of the high holidays in all of our faiths. So I would fully expect, and we are preparing for, an influx of more agents, more of the very visible public theatrics of the raids, of the harassments, and you got faith leaders here. I would not put it past this administration to target midnight mass services amongst folks going to worship, because that's who they are. And God knows they're not going to church, or if they are, they're not doing it the way that we were taught. So with that, I'm going to turn to somebody who I've trusted on these things. And again, I've said it. You don't need your elected officials to give you a sermon. They should try and live one. So I know if I want to hear a sermon, I usually come and listen to Bishop Howell, because it's worth your time to do so and opening up this space. So with that, I'm going to turn it to Bishop Howell. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor. As Bishop of the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World and as Board Chair of the Minnesota Council of Churches, I must speak to the fear we are witnessing of our communities. Across Minnesota, families are living with anxiety, parents afraid to go to work, children afraid to come home to empty houses, neighbors afraid that an ordinary day could turn into a permanent separation. When people are taken from jobs, homes, and daily life without warning, the result is not order, it is chaos. When families are torn apart, the damage is not temporary, it is lasting. Our faith traditions are clear. God places a high value on family, on the protection of children, and on the dignity of every human being. Scripture commands us to do no harm, to care for the vulnerable, and to resist systems that crush the spirit of God's people. Fear is not how healthy communities are built. Trauma is not how children thrive, and separation is not justice. As people of faith, we must say plainly, policies and practices that generate widespread fear and break families apart demand moral scrutiny. Yes. So we call for approaches that uphold human dignity, yes, preserve family unity, right, and reflect the justice and mercy that God requires of us all. Yes,
Governor Walz, thank you for bringing us together. Bishop Howell, thank you for having us in this sacred space here in Shiloh. Mayor Melvin Carter, representatives, leaders, religious and beyond from around the state. It's really good to be here, but during this trying and difficult time, it's especially tough. You know, before coming over here, I dropped my 2 kids off at daycare. And I dropped them off with the full confidence that they're going to have a whole day of learning, and then I'm going to see them again tonight. I'm going to pick them up, we're going to go home, we're going to have dinner, and we're going to be a family. This is the kind of confidence that every single father, regardless of where you're from or what zip code you grew up in, should have. Here at Shiloh, we know that. Here at Shiloh, as the governor correctly stated, we've been here during times of grief and strife. We've been here during times of celebration. Go back just a few years ago, crime was high. What did we do when crime was high? What did we do when safety was a paramount concern as it is now? We got together. We worked together. And while so many people talk about the North Side in terms of crime and violence, right now, because of that partnership, crime is at a near record low, right here on the North Side. But here's the point. we do partner with other jurisdictions. We partnered with the federal government, with the U.S. Attorney's Office, with a number of federal agencies to drive down crime because crime was the focus. The difference is that clearly crime is not the focus in these terroristic acts that are coming to our communities right now. Crime is not the focus when you are tearing a father away from his family who has done nothing wrong. Crime is not the focus when you are detaining an American citizen for no reason other than the fact that he is Somali or he is Latino. Crime is not the focus when you're dragging a pregnant woman through the street, and crime is not the focus when you are specifically focusing on communities based on the color of their skin. Where crime is the focus, Minneapolis is ready to partner to keep people safe. But that is not the case with this federal administration right now. And I got to tell you, I am increasingly concerned because of the chaos that is being caused by these ICE agents that somebody is going to get seriously injured or killed. Somebody is going to get seriously injured or killed. And whether that is an ICE agent or a community member, we all know the tinderbox that could explode because of it. We all know that the federal government is looking for reasons to deploy more and more people to Minneapolis and blue cities around the country. We all know that we cannot afford to lose a single Minneapolis resident because they showed up and decided to protect their neighbors, because they showed up and decided to express their constitutional right to free speech. And so that concern is deep. It is held, by the way, not just by me and our residents and the people who are standing up behind me. The concern about getting somebody killed is also held by our police officers, who are short-staffed, who are working tirelessly in response to 911 calls and to keep people safe throughout our city. We do not need them pulled into circumstances that they themselves do not control, where chaos reigns supreme and where chaos is being pushed on our cities. That is not a recipe for safety. So again, in Minneapolis, we want safety. Yes. On the north side, we are achieving safety with record lows in terms of gunshots. Yes. But we need to do even more right now, and we need to do it with wide eyes, recognizing what the Trump administration is pushing right now. It has nothing to do with safety at all. It has to do with division. And so thank you so much to all the partners here that are behind us. We're standing tall, we're standing true, and we're standing on the side of our immigrant communities. And I have the honor here of introducing Mayor Melvin Carter.
Thank you.
Mr. Governor, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. Bishop, we thank you for opening your home to us and welcoming us into this space. As we prepare, my family and I, to celebrate the holidays, that's what the American dream has been. Bishop, when I grew up in the St. Paul Public Schools, what I learned in first grade and in second grade and in 11th grade and 12th grade is the thing that makes America great. The thing that makes us know for a fact that this country is a beacon on the hill is the fact that people can look from other countries, from other continents, from across a river, and risk it all to get here. That, for all of my life, has been the badge of honor that this country has worn. Yes. And for some reason, Bishop, and I shouldn't say for some reason because it appears to be this de-evolution that has occurred as the waves of immigrants that our country, that our state, that our communities have received, have transitioned from European countries to Asian and African countries. Then suddenly, immigration became a bad word. Suddenly, people who are here because their ancestors got on a ship and said there's a better life in America want to denigrate people who came here because there's a better life in America. You know, when I came into office, we said we can make our community much more safe. But the trick is we can't do it by turning law enforcement against community members. We can't do it by being a destabilizing factor in our communities. And we can't do it by waiting until after a crime has occurred. You can't prevent crime after a crime has occurred. That's just as simple as gravity. And so we launched our Community First Public Safety Framework, and just like you, Mayor Fry, we've had incredible progress in this city.
Yes.
We've brought gun violence down by 70%. We've increased our case clearance rate for non-fatal shootings by a factor of 3. And we see gun violence in our community at a historic low. As a matter of fact, we see all types of violent crime in our community down double digits. We've done that because we believe in a model of public safety that makes our community members safer. We believe in a model of public safety that provides a stabilizing factor, not chaos in our communities. And sadly, right now, one of our biggest opponents in this approach that's been so successful in St. Paul, so successful in Minneapolis, so successful in communities across the color, our biggest opponent is our own weaponized federal government. Our biggest opponent is our own weaponized federal government who says put America first but arrests American citizens. Who says this is about ending violent crime and goes and arrests workers on their way to work. Who says that we care about you and we care for you and then goes and separates families from their children. Mayor Fry said that this isn't public safety.
No.
This isn't public safety at all. But it's easy to recognize what it is. When I look at my neighbors on the east side of St. Paul and see them worried, Bishop, before they leave the house, to make sure they have their papers so they're not harassed by law enforcement, I recognize that. I recognize Jim Crow.
No.
I recognize apartheid. You show me an era where people had to carry papers to keep from getting harassed and arrested by government agents, I'll show you an era of profound human rights abuses. And so we say to our neighbors, we stand with you. Your mayor stands with you. Your governor stands with you. Your legislators stand with you. Your mayor-elect stands with you. We stand with you in building a community that works for all of us. We stand with you in saying that our neighborhoods deserve to be safe and peaceful. And so when someone breaks our social contract, we're going to investigate. We're going to come find you. We're going to arrest you for actions that you did. And that our police officers, our local law enforcement, will never, ever, ever criminalize someone because of their identity. And by the way, when Mayor Fry says they're arresting people based on how they look, he's not making that up. He says that because they have said they're arresting people because of the way that they look. That's just them saying what their goal is. That's un-American. That's inhumane. And it doesn't match anything I've ever read about who we have historically aspired to be as a member of the world community. So I just say God bless all of you. God bless all of you for standing here and being here. We are the movement. We are our neighbors. And we're all here because we know that we are all one. Thank you.
I stand corrected. Sometimes you do need your elected officials to give you a sermon. So. Look, our message is clear. We want you in Minnesota. You're valued here. Human rights matter. Rule of law matters. Due process matters. To our Somali community, you're seen, valued, loved, heard.
Yes.
Welcome here. To our Hmong community, to our Hispanic community. Pretty much everybody but one person's welcome here. With that, we'll take questions. Yes.
Governor Walz, good morning. You all have described a very upsetting and disturbing pattern of behavior. I'm wondering if the conduct you have seen ICE agents engage in recent days, in your assessment, violates any Minnesota statute, and if there's anything you're contemplating doing in the way accountability beyond having press conferences like these?
Yeah, thank you. This is a great question. The question was, are we seeing behavior out of these federal agents that violates Minnesota law? I'll have Commissioner Jacobson talk a little bit about this, because this is really tricky, and you heard it from the mayors, that we've always coordinated together. And I think the position we're putting these local law enforcement and state patrol in is these folks come in unannounced, don't tell us. They create chaos. It gathers people onto the streets. Then we've got traffic control. We've got other things going on. And the true law enforcement has to come in and clean that up, and they get blended in and associated with them. Oops, excuse me. I can tell you one of the things that that we are looking at and targeting is these guys are violating Minnesota law by changing license plates. They're doing what criminals do. They're putting on license plates on vehicles they're not registered to. So they're renting vehicles and putting on fake plates. We've seen where they're putting on fake Uber stickers so they drive in so people think it is. That's not law enforcement. That's criminal activity. And I got to be honest with you, in Minnesota, if you have a health concern, which we've done during COVID, you mask up. If you're in a hospital operating room, you mask up. You don't do that on a daily basis. And I got to tell you what, you don't see it out of State Patrol. You don't see it out of Commissioner Jacobson. You don't think he doesn't receive threats? You don't think all of them receive threats? And yet we stand out here to do that. So I'll let the Commissioner talk a little bit about this. But they put us in a really, really difficult situation, because the standing rule is when law enforcement agencies are doing their job, they may have to double park behind a car if they're doing their significant job. Or if they are moving to an event, they may have to exceed the speed limit. We have no communication with these folks knowing what they're doing. So if they drive recklessly, which I think you heard it here, if they act recklessly, if they're changing license plate, those things are violation of Minnesota law. So Bob, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Good morning, everyone. Again, Bob Jacobson, I'm the Commissioner of Public Safety for the state of Minnesota, and I appreciate the question. Number one, I want to thank everyone who's here today to stand with the governor and the mayors and our elected officials to talk about the impact that some of the federal enforcement efforts have had in our community. What I pondered this morning is I go back always to something called Peel's Principles. And so for those who think about policing and look at the history of policing, they go back to the father of policing. His name is Sir Robert Peel, who talked about policing and police are the community are the police, and that without police and community relations and relationships, it's difficult to make law enforcement work well in communities. And clearly, I think in the city of Minneapolis and the city of St. Paul, they've demonstrated that working with communities is what's really important to make sure that we have safe communities, and we've seen some really great results from all of that. When it comes to investigations or review of federal enforcement efforts, number one, any investigation would have to include federal officials if there's a belief that federal law enforcement have committed a crime. Looking at video simply is not enough for any law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota to necessarily determine if a crime has occurred. Investigations need to occur for those, for any allegations of crime. And certainly anytime there's a report of misconduct or allegations of misconduct, or we believe that policing has been improper, the first step is normally you can reach out to that law enforcement agency and ask them to do an internal affairs investigation and investigate. So my suggestion is that if we feel and we see that there is any misconduct by our federal law enforcement agencies, reach out to those federal law enforcement agencies and report any misconduct, misbehavior, anything that you think should be investigated. That would be their role. And so the responsibility for the ethics, the responsibility for the use of force, the responsibility for the tactics that are being used lies with the leadership of those federal law enforcement agencies, and that's where those questions should go. And I would highly suggest and recommend that anyone with those concerns contact them directly.
But have you all contacted any federal law enforcement about specific incidents? Have you called the U.S. Attorney's Office, the head of DHS locally? What kind of concerns have you raised at that level, if any?
First of all, we do not coordinate with law enforcement, federal law enforcement, when it comes to immigration enforcement. So we've made that very clear. There are channels that go back and forth with the U.S. Attorney's Office. There's certainly channels that go back and forth with federal law enforcement agencies. What we always recommend and suggest to federal law enforcement and our own law enforcement is use de-escalation tactics, use proper procedures and processes, use best tactics when you're enforcing laws in the state of Minnesota, and that we, in Minnesota, we have high expectations as been demonstrated for our law enforcement officers in this state. And we would expect that federal law enforcement agents and agencies have high expectations for those that are doing that work in federal law enforcement functions. So if you didn't hear the question, it's if we've had any communication with federal law enforcement or Homeland Security. Again, there are some ongoing communications. The communications are not about coordinating any immigration enforcement. We still do continue to have relationships when it comes to other investigations, and so if there are other investigations that do not include immigration enforcement, we do have some communications that go back and forth.
Yeah, everything is speculative with this administration, but we start to see patterns of their activities and some of the chatter they see, and I don't know who they coordinate with here. But I would go back to it again. I think it's meant to be the most sensational. We see activity step up when the president's getting in more trouble. If it's, you know, he starts bombing ships in the Caribbean and starts, because the Epstein stuff is obviously real. So a lot of it is just our experience so far when they start to ramp up. And you see it coordinated. Over the last few days, we've received attacks from almost every single agency, freezing our SNAP benefits. The commissioner of wrestling who sets at the education department is now coming at us. So you see a coordinated effort. They speak with a lot of voices. I think you saw a Congress that's on recess that couldn't get us health care is now opening an investigation, and well, I'm sure will drag me back there to sit for 8 hours as they talk nonsense. These people are not serious. We take them serious in terms of the damage they do. I think probably they'll want to see some good footage coming out over the holidays because it'll be especially cinematic for them, or however they think about it. So that's where we'll be prepared. Yeah, we just make folks so that they're safe to come visit these places. So I know. We're out here trying to show people. We're going there ourselves and standing there. I'm sure they'll see, you know, and I think these folks have been out there making it uncomfortable for them to be at places where we're trying to be as visible as possible. Let them know, and you'll hear it time and time again, our job isn't and never has been immigration reform. And so I think the biggest thing is when you see state officials, you see elected officials, you see your neighbors, whatever, we're just trying to make sure that you're not traumatized. So we'll do the best we can to bring some normalcy, but I'm under no illusion. Folks are scared. They don't want to come out. You've seen at the malls, their businesses dropped off 75, 80% for these entrepreneurs. But that's par for the course because this administration just simply destroys the economy, and that's what they're doing in this case.
So are you relying on observers then, basically, to keep these
Yeah, I think, and I again, you say what you will, those are people expressing their First Amendment rights. I'm glad to see our neighbors out there. They're being observant of where people are at. They're watching how these folks are operating. We'll continue to watch and see, you know, just the stuff of the switching the license plates or whatever, but it's pretty easy to recognize these folks in darked out windows with masks on and being really out of place because they're not Minnesotan in the first place. They're coming from out of state. And they don't act like us because they're cruel. And I don't know. Bishop, I'll ask you, we'll pray for them over the next few days.
Let's do one more. For the mayor's address, what will be done at the local level to prepare for this expected influx of agents over the highways?
So the question was, could Mayor Carter and I address what is going to be done and what has been done to address a potential influx over the holidays? The preparation that we're presently undertaking is not new. It's been something that we've been working on for many, many months right now. This is everything from preemptive lawsuits to responsive lawsuits, coordination with the ACLU to make sure that those that do have standing to sue have the right contacts so that they're able to do so. There's also a task force that we have set up that we're able to work and coordinate directly with. And so while we do not coordinate with any federal agency around immigration enforcement work, we do coordinate with our community members to make sure that we're exchanging information, that we're able to communicate out what's going on when it's happening, and we're able to receive information back up so that we're able to run a command and control. We also have a number of plans with our law enforcement to make sure that we are able to view illegal and or constitutional activity where it's taking place. We've seen that community members are out there with cell phones recording. Well, our police officers also have body cameras. And we're making sure that the right kind of policing, the right kind of constitutional community-based policing is what we in Minneapolis are focused on. And at the same time, if the rumors are true, and we're seeing as many as 3 times the number of ICE agents coming into our city that we have presently, yeah, the reality is that we as a police department do not have enough bodies to both do the regular day-to-day work and simultaneously be everywhere all at once as these immigration raids are happening. And the concerning part, of course, is that the people coming into our city, 1, don't know our city, 2, don't know constitutional policing. These are not people largely that have gotten tons of training around how to de-escalate tense situations. They've recently gotten some cash. They come out to Minneapolis from somewhere else in the country without knowing the community and without knowing how to respond. The bottom line is there is no plan that they are presently executing. Do we have a plan? Yes, we have a plan to be responsive. Do they have a plan? The answer appears to be no. They are causing chaos. And I want to emphasize this one last thing here again. I am gravely concerned that if we continue on this present trajectory, somebody is going to get killed. And whether that's a federal agent or that is a community member, somebody is going to get killed. And we should be speaking out now to prevent that kind of thing from happening, as opposed to being really frustrated and upset with it after the fact. Let's stop the chaos. Let's actually care about safety, and let's do things right.
That's true, and you know, I don't want to just repeat the things that Mayor Fry said. Maybe the one thing I disagree with is there does seem to be a plan, and it does seem to be that chaos that you're talking about, to intentionally create chaos, and frankly to get us to take the bait, to give them an excuse to escalate against us and against our neighbors, and that's a challenge. But I do actually agree with your point. You know, as we look at just the way they operate in community, it's not safe. It's not technically sound. It's clear that they don't have the training to step into the roles that they're stepping into. They don't have the proper kind of procedure to do any of the things that they're doing safely, and it's incredibly dangerous. And again, it's important to note that they're exposing our communities to this danger. Again, just a couple of weeks ago, we had a raid at a warehouse business in St. Paul. They arrested 14 people, and the next day or 2 days after that, issued a statement that said one of those people had a prior charge. Now, I assume those federal agents know the difference between a charge and a conviction. So that means they arrested 14 people, and not a single one of them has ever been convicted of a crime. That means they arrested 14 people in a workplace who were just 14 people going to work that day, trying to be productive members of community. To your question, we have complained about many things. One specific thing that we were very frustrated about in one of the other actions that they took in our city, they had an individual in handcuffs with a head wound and attempted to refuse our paramedics the ability to take that person and get them the medical attention that they required. I want to thank our paramedics for explaining basic human rights to those ICE agents who are in that space. So yes, we're doing all the work that Mayor Fry described. And we have to work closely with the rapid responder groups and the protest leaders to not take the bait. Because their goal is to get us to fight against each other. Their goal is for them to come in here and go out and get me to say, Bishop, you didn't do enough. Archbishop, you didn't do enough. Commissioner, I'm mad at you because of what they did. That's their goal. And so our job is to work together proactively to ensure that we're all on the same page and that we're not taking the bait of hating one another because of their actions. The final thing I want to say is I want to ask us, here's what we can do. Because it's easy to feel helpless. Because I know many of us, Commissioner, thank you for your service and thank you for the work of the folks that you talk to. But as we encounter this reality that if we think federal officials have broken a law or broken human rights, that who we get to complain to is federal law enforcement agencies. I know while many of us wonder if our U.S. Supreme Court has the capacity of being a backstop for justice, it can feel helpless. So my request to everybody at home watching this is really two things. One, we just told you that shopping and traffic in places like Carmel Mall, in places like District del Sol, in places like Hmong Village and Hmongtown Market in St. Paul is down significantly. That's the livelihood of community members. That's the livelihood, not just of those store owners, but of the people who work there. And that's a part of their strategy, because a part of this conversation that we don't talk about enough is self-deportation. And when we see 1 million people self-deport, it means the federal government has been so successful at making life in America so terrible for 1 million people that they've decided to just go someplace they already decided to leave, that they already decided to flee, that they already decided wasn't good enough for their children. And so my request number one is go shop, go spend your money. Get off the couch and go spend your dollars in ways that support our community. Request number two is it's so easy for me to stand at this microphone and say and shout that I don't like what they're doing. It's harder for me to not just say the opposite, but to be the opposite. And we stand in a house where in some of those beautiful and terrible times, I have heard a call for our better angels from inside. And our better angels can't just come out when everybody else's better angels are out. Our better angels have to be out every day. And so our request as we do that work, and I have to acknowledge our mayor-elect who's leading some of that work with our rapid responder and protest groups. Our request is as we go and document what they're doing. Because, you know, sometimes if you can't make people do right, you can turn on the light. So as we document what they're doing, our request, our demand is for us to be humane, is for us to cease violence, is for us to not add to the chaos, is for us to not add to the division, for us to operate ourselves in ways that history will look at us and all of our children and our grandchildren and their grandchildren will look at their videos and know who's in the right, who's on the side of justice, who's on the side of love, who's on the side of humanity.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kali Herb, Mayor-elect of St. Paul. You know, as I'm listening today, I'm not thinking about this as an elected official, as somebody who was a state representative or a mayor-elect. Is that I am a refugee. I come from this community. When I am in community and we are talking about who has been detained, it is my uncles, it is my aunts, it is my parents. And so as the questions were asked about what we're doing, truthfully, to be honest, I've met with ICE directly, who are telling me things that are not consistent with what it is that they are actually doing. that when they say that they're going after hardened criminals, they are not. They're going after people who are 16-year-olds who were tried as adults in a criminal justice system that already treats our men of color differently. Is that a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old should never be tried as an adult for crimes in which, if you were a peer of the majority, would never be tried that way. And what we're doing is removing those people after decades of paying taxes and having families. Those are the people that we're removing. And when you ask ICE directly, are you done with all of the hardened criminals and national security threats? They do not answer because now they're just going after everyday people. When I think about like who it is that is being targeted right now, it is the people that I'm going to check-ins at the Whipple building with when they have removal orders. It is those people. If we're being asked what is it that cities and elected officials are doing truthfully, the government does not care that we have election certificates. The federal government does not. That we are as powerless as everyone else right now. But the truth is that power lies in community, which is why I've been working with my chief of police to connect him with our community leaders who are part of UNIDOS and the Immigrant Defense Network, that they are the ones that are showing up on scene that communities will respect so that they can put their constitutional observers in front of everybody so that they know this is who we should be following, that it is those relationships, that right now those of us who have official power, that official power is useless in the eyes of this federal government. But what is powerful? It is the people. The people right now, that we stay together, that we continue to band together because it is in the strength of all of us, whether you are a Latinx community or the Somali community or East African or the Hmong community or the Karen community who have been targeted, that the more we stand together, the less they are able to divide us because the power is going to come from them. And so as we continue to look to our elected officials, we will be the connectors. Before I got here, I was just at a call with state and county and school board members and our city council members, because we have decided that more than ever, we all must work together, that when there is an incident in a neighborhood, how do we notify each other? Who do we inform what is happening? Because if all we can do is get information back to the family that your person has been detained, that your person is at least safe, where your person is being held right now, that is all we can do right now. So I wish that this could be a different environment for us now, but right now it is not. And so how do we help each other even when we don't feel safe? It's right, you know what, unfortunately, we're not gonna be going out. When I talk to my community members why they're not showing up in their own communities and spaces, they are afraid. But the rest of us who are allies, show up, help us out, support each other, be the ones to go get the constitutional observer training. We've trained thousands of people. We need tens of thousands more. So show up in that way, connect with our local partners, and make sure that you remember to tell everyone else it is the strength of each one of us together and our communities, as diverse as we are, that being one is what is going to stop us and be able to weather through these next 3 years. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, I want to thank you all. To Minnesotans, during this holy season, just coming out of Hanukkah, and we're getting ready to celebrate Christ's birth for so many of us in our faith traditions. Gwen and I want to wish you the peace during this time, understanding how chaotic this is, but it's also an opportunity. I think we're saying here is, let's show the rest of the world what Minnesota is. We've been through it. We've been through it together. We've witnessed horrific scenes of from George Floyd's murder to what happened during COVID. And we've come through it stronger and better together. So let's show them what this grit looks like. I keep praying for as cold as it can get, because these soft folks are going to leave. And the bottom line is, this all comes back to, in this place of worship and with these leaders, the apolitical leaders, their message is simple: our common humanity and decency. That's what's at stake here. And so for all of you, and it's my message every year at this time of the year, the N is not full in Minnesota, and it never will be, because someone in need, Minnesotans reach out. So I wish you all a blessed Christmas this holiday season, and you heard it from all of these folks. Minnesotans, let's rise up. Let's rise up in the decency of this. Let's show a contrast and hold that mirror up to this hateful, vile attempt to intimidate us, and show them what the difference looks like. The country and the world's counting on us. Thank you all.
Thank you all.